Hey everyone, welcome to my live podcast, JT Talks Jobs. This is the live I do every single week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, so that you can learn how to earn more, stress less, and love your work again. If you have questions for me, please post them. I am live on TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn, so you can post wherever you're watching, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. While I'm waiting for those questions to start pouring in, I got to make sure that I'm live over here and can start giving some shout outs to everybody that's on the platform. So please, if you want to shout out, let me know. I would be happy to do that for you. So why do I go live 3 times a week? Because we have a massive white collar job recession going on right now. There are millions of people that are underemployed or unemployed. And on top of that, there's an incredible amount of people that want to just change careers or want a new, better paying job. There's an epidemic, a crisis of this going on. I can't work with every single person one-on-one, but I can take my 20 years as a career coaching veteran who also used to work in the staffing and recruiting industry and answer your questions and give you advice to help you play the game. Because let me be clear, folks, this is a game. And in a competitive market like this one, you got to bring the level of your game up. You got to level up. And that means you're going to have to learn new things in order to succeed. And that is exactly what I'm here trying to help you do. So with that in mind, bring on the questions. There's no question that I'm afraid of. I will always do my very best to answer them for you. I might not always have an answer, but I will certainly try. Sound good? So let's give some shout outs. Shout out to Lisa and Mohammed over on LinkedIn. Shout out to some Pate over on TikTok, WV Girl on TikTok, Calico, Noah, Justin, Elisa, Daniela on TikTok. Wow, TikTok in the house today. I love it, love it, love it, as well as LinkedIn. Where are my YouTubers at? So listen, if you have been enjoying JT Talks Jobs, then I would appreciate a like, a follow, a share. It can help me get out to more people and serve them, which you know is my number one priority on this app. So thank you in advance for doing that. It does mean the world to me. Okay, who's going to throw me their first question? Oh, shout out to Jackie and Gary for the gifts on TikTok. My goodness, like TikTok bringing it big for me in the house. Thank you. Thank you so much. It means the world. Be sure to put your questions in the chat. And then, of course, you know, I know you can't do that on other platforms, but again, I'm not afraid to answer your questions as well. So please have at it. That is for sure. I love you all for those gifts. It's so sweet of you. Awesome. Okay. Tim says, let's take Tim's question. I had a very promising interview 2 weeks ago and haven't heard back. When should I follow up? Okay. So if you've had a really good interview and 2 weeks have passed, it is totally okay to check in with the employer. What you want to do is keep this note very simple because this isn't an opportunity to sell yourself. You had an interview. They know where to find you. It's not that they can't find you. It's that something else is going on there. So you can easily send them a message saying, hey, I wanted to be proactive, see if there's anything else I can provide to further my candidacy. I really would love to move forward in your process. That's it. You send an epic novel and it's going to feel really salesy and they're not going to appreciate it. So you do want to keep it super short, very positive, simple. Okay. But after 2 weeks, that's been a fair amount of time. It is totally okay to check in. Let's see. What do you recommend for someone who has 23 years of experience, but maybe getting denied due to ageism? Oh, we're getting into ageism early on the podcast today. Okay, so listen up, folks. Does ageism exist? Of course. There are always going to be some people out there that, you know, don't want to hire young people or don't want to hire old people. We can't control that. But to the degree that which people use it as a reason why they're not getting hired is not accurate. And that can be really hard to hear. What I'm saying is that there's not as much ageism out there as you believe. What is actually happening is the way you are marketing your brand of 23 years in this case is not landing correctly. You heard me. You are a business of one. Let's make sure we're all on the same page here. We're not employees, okay? We're not stuck with golden handcuffs at the mercy of employers. We are businesses of one that are marketing our services, and we want to partner with the best business partners out there, right? So we're always looking for the best employers to partner with, and we market our services to them. Now, when we start out in our career, our brand, what we have to offer is very different than the middle of our career. And then when we get to 23 years of experience, we have to have a brand that is so double chef's kiss on point. If it isn't, it's going to land incorrectly. And let me give you some examples of that. When you have 23 years of experience, if you're running in there saying, I can do everything, right? I've done it all. I can do everything. And that doesn't work. That makes you sound like the Jack or Jill of all trades, which translates into, and you know where it's coming. If you follow me, you know what I'm about to say. It translates into you saying, I'm a BMW for the price of a Honda. Nobody believes that. So the first thing that you have to change when you have 20 plus years of experience is how you present yourself, the value that you create, how you talk about that value. Okay. You have to be more targeted on the problems you solve and the pain that you alleviate. You're like a surgeon, you're laser like. The other thing that people do wrong when they're more seasoned is the way that they communicate this value, meaning they talk about it with such enthusiasm and confidence that it comes across as a little too much. So if you're going in and saying, oh, I've done this 20 times before, this is exactly what you need to do, here's how you do it, you might be all excited to say that with confidence, but what you're really saying is you're opinionated, you're rigid, you're only going to want to do it your way. And if you don't like the way we do it, or if we try to coach you on it, you're probably going to be difficult. Now you're thinking, no, I'm not, JT. That's not what I'm saying at all. This is my point. You have to think about how the other side is receiving what you're saying. You have to use more emotional intelligence, more situational awareness, and say, I am now paying a wisdom tax. People expect me to be able to talk about my value, but also in a way that's collaborative, that gives off the vibe that I'm not going to be a know-it-all, that I'm not going to be set in my ways, that I, understand the picture here, which is you have a job I want. You have a lot of things that I want. I have some laser light experience that I would love to provide value to you as a company, but I'm not going to make the assumption that I have all the answers. So that needs to be how your communication comes across. Now, I have an entire video on this in case you're wondering. If you're over 40 and you want to understand this, I have an entire video on it inside the Work It Daily platform. Go grab your 7-day free trial so you can get it and watch it, because it's going to really help you understand this whole idea about branding yourself with focus, but also communicating your value in a way that's actually going to resonate. I have a lot of people who are very seasoned come to me and say, oh, I went on this interview and clearly they were threatened by my experience. They weren't. They weren't threatened by your experience. They were threatened by your delivery of your experience. That's it. I want you to think about that for a minute, because you can easily convey that experience in a way that feels collaborative and approachable. And it's more likely, without realizing it, you did too much, which came across as either narcissistic or desperate. And that wasn't your intent. I know it wasn't, but can I just remind everybody of something? You have not gone to job school. What got you to where you are today is not going to get you where you want to go. We all have to be learning and evolving in the way we approach job search, or we're not going to get the results we're looking for. And that includes seasoned professionals. Quite frankly, even more so when you're a seasoned professional, because you need a more sophisticated way to brand and present yourself. I hope that made sense. You can absolutely do this, but please don't default to it's got to be ages and it's got to be age discrimination, because we can't change your age. And that ends up being a victim mentality that can't be solved for. That's why I have people every single day coming into Work It Daily in their 40s, their 50s, and 60s. And very quickly, they're seeing the tools and the resources and the coaching that shifts their brand messaging, shifts their approach, and now they're getting interviews and now they're getting job offers, right? So I know it works, and this is coming from a place of proof. And I just want to make sure you understand that so that you don't limit yourself. So you don't sit and have months and months pass and you make this false assumption that it's got to be ageism when it likely isn't. All right, I hope that helps. I hope that helps. Thank you. Very good, very good. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Let me look at what other questions. Should I raise my profile by posting articles on LinkedIn? All right, let's talk about the LinkedIn algorithm and what most people don't understand about it that's probably costing you job interviews, okay? About a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now, LinkedIn changed its algorithm. And they had to do that because they have 1.1 billion profiles on the platform, many of which are fake or inadequate. So what was happening is recruiters were using the very expensive software. LinkedIn charges them to use this software to find candidates, and the candidates they were finding were either bogus or not responding back to them. So they said, look, we want the results to be more relevant, right? So if you think about when you go on the internet and use a search algorithm, companies like Google or Yahoo or whoever are always upgrading their algorithm to make the results more relevant for you. Well, LinkedIn had to do the same thing. So what they said was, okay, we're going to change this algorithm, and now we're going to reward people who post more content in their feed. Because if they're posting frequently And if they're posting with relevancy, meaning the content they're posting is related to their industry, related to their skill set, that tells the algorithm you are real and you are active. And that's who we want in the search results for the recruiters, because then the recruiters statistically have a better chance of you responding to them when they reach out to you. So a lot of people have said to me, gee, I used to get contacted all the time. Now I'm not getting contacted. Well, one, the algorithm changed. So if you aren't posting in LinkedIn on a daily basis, then the algorithm isn't seeing you as an active user. Now, what should you be posting in your LinkedIn feed? Well, I just shared industry content, skill set content. Okay. And by the way, you commenting and saying great job or congratulations, that doesn't count anymore. You liking things, that doesn't count anymore. You really want to go up in visibility, you have got to create original content, original thoughts and ideas, and put them into the feed. That is what's going to help you on LinkedIn. Now, if you would like a step-by-step guide on exactly how to do that, I have a brand mastery course, because that's what you're doing. If you would like to very quickly learn, watch some videos and learn exactly what has to happen in LinkedIn, I have that over at Work It Daily. It's called Brand Mastery. Go grab your 7-day free trial. I tell you all the time, and go check out that course, and that will explain to you exactly what to do. Awesome. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Lots of questions today on TikTok. TikTok, bring in the game. Thank you, TikTok. Loving, loving, loving everything that you've got here. Should I apply for a job that they've just rejected me but posted again? No. Okay. Folks, if you interviewed for a job, you were rejected, and then they reposted it, they are not considering you for the role. I'm just going to be honest. They're not going to consider you for the role. You had your chance. You were rejected. They are looking for something different. So there's no point in you applying again. What I would say is that if you had an interview with someone there and you felt like you had a good connection, I would try to nurture that relationship instead, so that maybe you can get hired there someday. So I might reach out to the person and say, I know I wasn't a fit for this current role that you're looking for, but what's the best way to stay on your radar screen for future opportunities? What else could I do to stay visible and top of mind to be considered for other things in the future? That is something that you can do right now. And hopefully they'll give you a response. But if you've been rejected from a role and they repost it, they've already said to you, you're not right now. Year from now, 2 years from now, you could go back. But right now they've made that decision. And so you reapplying is not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. You need to be networking and connecting and building relationships at that company in order for you to be considered the next time those opportunities come around. Yeah. Very, very good. Very, very good. Oh, shout out to Beth. Beth is one of our new 7-day trial members. Get on over there and start learning branding. In fact, Beth, at the time I'm recording this today, it's Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern today. Myself and the director of coaching are doing our LinkedIn and personal branding live at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific. So head on over, my friend. It'll be in the calendar of events. You can RSVP and you can come to the event. Okay. Can't wait to see you there. Yes. If everyone follows your advice and applies for the same job, what distinguishes 25 years from 0 years? Oh, that's really interesting. First of all, everybody is different. You're not special, but you are different. And so that's why we tell you that everyone has a UVA, a unique value add. It is on you to assess that. So my first question to anyone looking for a job right now is, have you done proper professional strengths assessment? Do you understand your work style, your learning preferences, your interaction style, your workplace personas? Do you understand how that all comes together and creates your unique value add? That is your brand messaging. And that's how somebody with 25 years of experience competes against somebody with 15 or 10 or 0, your unique value add. What I find is that most job seekers have not done this. So they slap together a resume, they start sending it out, they get rejected, they assume it's the resume, they make revisions to the resume, they send out it again, they get rejected, and 7 resume revisions later, they're convinced it's something else. When in reality, you started with the wrong material. You don't start with the resume. You start with your UVA, your unique value add, and understanding your brand, out of which comes a very detailed, simplified, 6-second, skimmable resume that resonates correctly with the audience. Okay. And from there, you use very specific tools and ways to get that resume in a human's hands. That is a very different strategy. Most people are not doing it. They think they know how to look for work because they're using outdated modes for looking for work. And then they blame the resume. They blame age discrimination. They blame all these things when in reality, they have never started from the beginning and learned the proper and correct way to brand their business of one and to market it. Let me give you a beautiful example of this. Many, many, many of you out there, your job search right now is the equivalent of you standing on a corner saying oranges for sale, oranges for sale, and the only people on the street are looking for apples. That is, when you don't understand your brand, what most people do. And it doesn't matter what you say about that orange. If none of the people on the street are buying an orange, they're buying an apple, you're not getting any responses. And this is what happens. And you don't know any better because it wasn't taught in school. And most people just think they're supposed to be able to figure this out for themselves. If you want a great paying job, if you want to be happier in your career, how much learning you put into this, into job search and career development, will directly reflect the success that you get directly. And let me be clear, you cannot do this alone, which is why I'm on here doing lives all the time. You cannot do this alone. This is like building your dream home. Okay. When you want to build your dream home and you want it to come out perfect, first you need a blueprint. You need a clear step-by-step process of what's going to be built. Everyone's on the same page, right? Then you need the materials, the right materials to build that home. And then you need the contractors, the coaches, right, to build it. But I'm telling you right now, most of you out there don't have any of this. You're literally like throwing hammers and nails up and slapping things together, and you're going to be shocked when you don't get a great building, when you don't get your dream house. If you care about your career, if you care about your job, how much are you investing in learning and paying down the ignorance tax, what you don't know that's hurting you? Ask yourself that. Be really honest. And the fact that you're here and just starting to take that in, that makes me happy because you're opening your mind and your ears to the fact that I might not have all the answers. And maybe if I had the right blueprint, the right resources, right, the right materials and the right, contractors, maybe if I had that right thing, which we refer to as courses, coaching, and community at Work It Daily, maybe if I had those three things, I might be able to figure this thing out faster and get what I really want. That's what you have to start thinking about. Job searches, if everyone could get their dream job just like this, then they would. This is a thing that requires some skill. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery, but it requires investing and understanding your situation right now. Because what somebody coming out of college right now needs is very different than somebody who's 5 years out of school, who's 10 years out of school, who's 20 years into their career. You all have to have a completely different approach to your job search. And if you don't know exactly what that should be, you need to learn it. That's it. But you can. You can. You just need what? The right blueprint, the right tools and resources, and the right person, the right contractors. And you can build that dream home, aka that dream career. I hope that made sense. Yeah. What skills or experience are most important to secure a trainee position at a Big Four firm, and how can I increase my chances with recruiters? Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so folks, anytime you're bent on getting a job with like a Big Four, a Fortune 500, these companies hire massive amounts of people and have a very clear profile of who they hire. So your first job should be doing as much research as you can around that. Now, for example, you could go over to glassdoor.com and go to their page. There's a whole section there where people tell you what the interview process was like. I would be immediately going there to understand that process because people reveal a lot of information. Also, you may not realize this, but you can go over to YouTube and put in, how do I get a job at a Big Four? And there are people that have done videos on this where they will share with you past experiences. I would also be immediately going to any alumni from your school who work at these companies and ask for informational interviews. This is where you're saying, look, I'm not asking you to get me a job. I want to learn from you. What do you think it took for you to get your job there? What advice do you give so that I can earn an opportunity to interview and hopefully land a job there? Lots of times alumni want to help one another and can give you great insights. You are in research phase right now. We don't dive into applying at the Big Four or a Fortune 500 without doing our research on what their interviewing and hiring process is like, right? And actually talking to people that have successfully done it. When you start to do those things, You're going to close your gaps in knowledge and what it'll take, but you're also going to start to build a network that's going to help you mobilize yourself when it's time to apply. Yep. Very, very important. Anytime you want one of those jobs, it's very clear. There's so much you can do to research and prepare. It's just like preparing for any exam. You need to do the research. You need to make sure you are well prepared before you engage. Yeah. Excellent. Beth says my analogies are on. Thank you, Beth. I try really hard to share these analogies. So this is a really funny thing. For the longest time, I've been explaining to job seekers that you need these 3 things to get a job. I've been doing this 20 years: strategy, tools, and tactics. And someone recently said to me, JT, when you say strategy, tools, and tactics, it sounds like blah, 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 blah. I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, we're just still not getting it. And I said, oh, so I need to create some analogies here, you know? And so all of a sudden started brainstorming all these cool analogies, like the house building one. I'll give you another one. How many people here watch cooking shows? Have you ever watched a cooking show? Why are cooking shows so helpful? First, they start with a recipe so that you know step by step what to do, okay? Second, they show you all the tools that you're going to need in order to be successful, right? And third, there's a chef coaching you every step of the way, telling you what pitfalls to avoid and things to expect so that you feel confident you're doing it, right? Think about that. So you got a recipe, you got the utensils and the tools, and you got the chef. Guess what? At Work It Daily, you got the courses, right? You got the coaches and the community. Same thing. And so when we explain that to people, they're like, oh, I get it. I want you to like cook up an amazing new job. I want you to, you know, whip up the best career ever. So I've got to use that same framework for you to make that happen. And I've known that. That's why Work It Daily works so well, right? A lot of people will go spend money on a coach or a resume writer or a LinkedIn writer. That's only one aspect. That's why it fails. And you overpay, quite frankly. When you're part of a program like ours, you're sharing the cost. You're sharing the cost like a gym membership or like a co-working space. You're getting access to all this great stuff at a fraction of the price because everyone's sharing it. That's why I built it, because there's way too many people out there that need this help that are like, I can't spend thousands of dollars. Great. I don't want you to. I'm going to make you a really affordable way for you to get all 3 things that you need in order to cross the finish line and get that dream job or pivot that career or make that thing happen for yourself, right? That's what you need. That's why I built Work It Daily. Yeah. And my team and I love what we do. Yep. Awesome. Hey, shout out to everybody that's on LinkedIn coming in here, asking your questions. Shout out to my YouTubers. I'm going to say right now, TikTok, you are crushing it. so many people there are popping in. Shout out to all of you asking great questions. Let's see. Let's talk about tips for just out of school and gaps in work history. Oh, okay. All right. A couple of different things there. So listen, if I was just graduating from school, first of all, this is a really competitive market. A lot of the entry-level jobs are just plain gone. Companies are cutting resource. They don't have time to train people and make them valuable. When you get hired right out of school, most of the time you're not really valuable to the company between 6 months to a year. So in a contracted market like this, a lot of those entry-level jobs go away because companies don't have the time and resource to train you. What they need to do is cut back and have people that can hit the ground running. All right. But if you're graduating, what you have to do is have laser-like focus on who you want to work for and why. So when I work with recent grads, it's all about having a bucket list and doing a lot of proactive outreach to let them know, here's why I love your company. Here's why I want to work for you. Because they do have some jobs that are hidden, but they're only going to give them to those recent grads that are hustlers. They're like, look, we're not going to post a job and have 10,000 of the 3 million recent grads just blindly apply to us and we can't handle it. No, that's not what we're going to do in this market. Instead, we're going to have this job, this coveted job for a couple of really awesome recent grads. And the ones that back channel their way in, show the hustle, share their story, those are the people we're going to interview for the job. So for all my recent grads out there, you need to be back channeling on your bucket list in order to get visible. Most definitely. Yeah. How do you attack recent long gaps, short stays, going back fast path? Okay. So what do you do when you've got a splotchy past? I'm going to call it splotchy. When I say splotchy, I mean you've got some gaps, you've got some short stints, looks like you've been bouncing around. Essentially, you don't look stable. So that's a real concern. I'm going to give it to you straight because I'm also going to tell you how to overcome it. All right. From a recruiter and a hiring manager standpoint, we have our pick of talent right now. There are a lot of really talented people that don't have a splotchy past. And so their concern is going to be, why did you bounce so much? What's going on? Why couldn't you stay someplace? And you're going to need to own that, because there's no amount of tap dancing around that that's going to get anyone to believe you. You have job jumped. You have had gaps. You are going to have to speak to it. Okay. So just own that pill, swallow that pill right now. Okay. But once you've done that, you use the experience plus learn equals grow model to explain yourself. And you especially incorporate in something called moments of accountability. Now, what that means is you're not going to go back and say, I was wrong. I was intentionally wrong. I guarantee whatever you were doing over those last 5 years with that splotchiness, you were doing your very best. You weren't intentionally trying to do anything wrong. It's just things didn't pan out, and this is the result that you got. But what you don't want to do is try to explain it away or play a blame game. You want to own the past. You want to be able to look back and say, knowing what I know now, if I had a do-over, here are the 3 things I would have done differently. Okay. So in this situation, I might say something like this. I'm glad you asked. I do have, the last 5 years are a little splotchy and I don't love it. I know the message it sends, but I have to tell you, I did not embark on a journey to have this. Looking back now, I can look at 3 different places where I would have done something different that I think would have resulted in me not having to move around. And let me explain what those are. And then I would go through my past and I would point out what I learned from each situation. Then I would say, based on that and based on what I've learned, my goal now is just to get with a really good, stable company where I can stay put and create value and put that chapter behind me, because I don't want to continue this trend. And that's why I'm really excited to be talking to you today, because whoever hires me is going to have somebody that is overextending themselves to absolutely crush it and exceed expectations so that I can close that chapter. And that's what I'm focused on doing, right? That's what you're going to have to say. You're going to have to own it. And again, you're not saying you did anything wrong. You're saying I learned from the experiences. Not I learned from my mistakes. I learned from these experiences, and this is what I would do differently going forward. That's all we're looking for. We're looking for moments of accountability, your ability to learn and grow from your situation. And that's what you need to do. Now, I just want to mention, you're not going to be able to get an interview off your resume or off your LinkedIn profile, because in this market, if that's what you're leading your brand with. Let's talk about this again, folks. You're all a brand. You're all a business of one selling your services. If your only marketing material is your resume, the resume isn't reading right. The LinkedIn profile isn't reading right. So that's not the tool we use for you. Okay. I'm going to put that aside. You're going to need one, but we don't want to lead with that, because that's why you're getting such a high rejection rate. Instead, you're going to lead with your connection story. This is why I think your company is amazing. Here's how I know they're amazing. Here's how I know your product is amazing. Your services are amazing. The customers you serve. You need to be able to be very specific and intentional about why this company is great and how you know that through your own experience, because that is called your intrinsic motivation and connection. And people are really inspired to hire people who have that. So you lead with that. So they're like, ooh, he or she gets us. They're one of us. Oh, this is really exciting. I love this story. Then they see the resume and go, okay, I'm not loving the splotching thing, but the story was so good. Let's get him on the phone and find out what's going on there. This is where you get the benefit of the doubt. And that's what you have to focus on, is leading with a different set of tools in order to get your shot to get the conversation. Because so many times when I work with people like you, they say, if I can just talk to them, I'll be able to really show that I know my stuff. I'll be able to talk them through. And I agree, you will. But getting that conversation is now the challenge because of what's on the resume and the LinkedIn profile. So we cannot lead with that. We can't change it. We can't lie about it. We just can't lead with it. But the good news is, when you lead with a connection story, especially when you learn how to do it the Work It Daily way, they fall in love with you. They're like, oh my gosh, this person gets us. They're one of us. Let's get them on the phone and learn more. That's what you're shooting for. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I've been laid off. Jeff is saying, I've been laid off twice in the past 4 years. Should I be honest about the layoffs? Okay. Folks, you should always be honest about layoffs. Layoffs are out of your control. You didn't do anything wrong. You weren't fired for cause. You weren't banned from ever working there again. You were laid off. And so were lots of other people. So if you've been laid off, what I think you can do is talk about it, but also What have you learned from the layoff? Once again, the experience plus learn equal grow model is such a successful model for answering tough interview questions. It is why I've been teaching it for 2 decades now, because it gives them what they need to hear and it's honest and accurate. And it's going to make you feel at peace because you're saying the truth. Okay. So let's think about this. The experience part of it is, it's really hard for me to say, if you ever told me that I would be laid off twice in the last 4 years, I would have never believed it. But I have. First time I was laid off, I was one of 20 people. Second time I was laid off, I was one of 100 people. In both cases, I really learned something important. And that is that in spite of everything, sometimes companies don't have great results and have to make changes. And that really every job is temporary. So that I need to be more mindful of that and be paying more attention to the kind of organization I work for and make sure that they're sound and they're stable and that we're seeing all the right things. I also realize that I want to make sure that my skill sets are very relevant to saving or making money. I always want to look for ways that I am adding a lot of value so that I am even more relevant to the business model where I can be. So now that's why I'm really excited to talk to you, because I want to work for an amazing company like yours that's stable, that's got great things going on. And the job that you're talking about is one that I know I can provide a lot of value, save you money, make you money, and alleviate pain. And that's what I now understand is my job and what I want to do. So see, in that moment, you're helping me know that you understand layoffs are a reality, you learn from them, but you've also started to think proactively, what can I do to be an even more vital part to the organization? Like, I'm loving that. Of course I want that. That's the exact kind of employee I want, right? That's why you have to look at this more strategically. Folks, a huge part of what we do over at Work It Daily is tell you how to say things correctly. And I don't mean lie. I mean literally, accurately, correctly, but in a way that lands right. There's what you need to say and there's what they need to hear, and that needs to sync up. Okay. And so if you don't know how to do that, you should get some coaching on that. Whether it's for me, somebody else, I just see so many people, messing it up in the job interview. Can I say that? Because you take the questions too literally, or you don't prepare, so you don't give enough information, or you wing it. So now you're all over the board and you look flighty or narcissistic. Like, interviewing really is about knowing your brand messaging. If you know your brand message and you know how to deliver your brand message, you're going to do great in interviews. But so many people sleep on this and they don't do interview prep and it costs them the job. And I don't want that for you. I really want you to have a strong, proper brand message. And that's what's coming through in an interview. Let's be clear. Right now, every company is doing what we call evidence-based hiring. Evidence-based hiring is this idea of making you provide the evidence that you really are who you say you are. They need you to authenticate yourself and prove you can do it. That's why you're seeing people do skills assessments. That's why they're having you do projects. That's why they're having you do video interviews. They just need to know you are who you say you are, because there's so many candidates out there that essentially look the same, which means you're going to have to bring your A++ game to the interview. Yeah. I went through 3 rounds of interviews, haven't heard back yet after a week. Okay, folks, let's manage our expectations about interviews. Right now, according to the last survey I saw on LinkedIn, it's taking companies about 13 weeks to hire, from posting the job, putting people through the interviews, making the offer. 13 weeks, that's the average. So you can go through a 3 round of interviews, and then there'll be a hurry up and wait period. It might be that they're putting more people through the interview process. It might be that they're not sure. A week feels like an epic long time for you, but over there, this isn't the only thing they're doing. They haven't dropped everything just to focus on interviewing. They've all got other jobs, other things. So what happens is interviewing takes time. I don't think week is a long time at all. In fact, a week feels like a year to you. A week feels like a minute to them. Do you see the difference? I would say if you haven't heard at the 2-week mark, it is totally okay to check in. Remember, you went through 3 rounds of interviews. They know where to find you. So wait another week, and then you can be proactive and check in and see if there's anything else you can offer to further your candidacy. But folks, in this market, you got to be patient. And I know that's so easy to say. I know your number one priority right now is getting a new, better paying job. That is your obsession. It's all you think about. But you got to stop job crushing, right? So we all know what happens when we crush. When we crush, we get distracted and we don't do the things we should be doing. And then if we get let down or heartbroken, so my advice to anybody that's been through an interview cycle and you're waiting to hear back, double down. Go do more networking. Go find other companies to apply to. Do not job crush, because job crushing is the fastest way for you to distract yourself only to maybe end up not getting the job. And now you're really going to beat yourself up for wasting that time. Okay. Really important. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about when you apply for a job, you get the interviews, you go all the way through, you don't get the job, and then they post again. What is going on? There can be a lot of things that are going on in that company. I'm going to give you a couple scenarios that I know for a fact happen on a regular basis and why companies do that. Okay. Number one is they post a job posting, they interview a bunch of people, and they don't feel any of them were the right fit. And so they feel like they want to go back and get a fresh set of applications to see if there are other people out there that are a better fit. That is one of the most common reasons why you will see a job posted. Number two, you think it's the same job posting because it's the same job title, but oftentimes they will revamp the job description with different things based on the round of interviews they did. They've said, okay, we didn't position that job correctly. We need a different set of people, same job title, because that's what we legally call it at our company, but different job description. So oftentimes it can be that they're now going back to look for a slightly different set of qualifications. Number three, a lot of companies, especially on LinkedIn, for example, have prepaid for job slots, which means at any given time they can have jobs up and be collecting resumes. Some of these systems are automated. So if they don't remember, it will repost the job automatically instead of closing it down. And so some of these are just reposted out there accidentally without the company realizing it. And then fourth, some companies are resume harvesting right now, meaning they're posting the job and they're gathering a lot of resumes and talking to people, and they keep doing that on a rolling basis because they're not hiring this second, but they know the moment they'll be allowed to hire, they're going to need to fill jobs fast. So they're gathering that process. Those are just a few of the examples of why that happens. Regardless, if you've applied for a job, went through the interview cycle and were rejected, and you see a reposting, you are not eligible. If you were eligible and they wanted you, they would come back. They know where to find you. And I know that's really hard to hear, folks, but that's the reality. What I would do is focus on the long game with this company. If this is a place you really want to work, then you need to be networking. You need to be connecting with people that work at the company, having conversations with them, learning more about what they think it takes to get hired there, nurturing relationships so that later on, when there's a job posting, not right now, but later on, then you could reach out to them and say, hey, it's been 6 months and I see they've got this job. I really would love to work for you all someday. Can you give me some guidance on how to back channel my way there? Right. But right now in this moment, you are not eligible. If you were, they would contact you. I know. And I know that's really hard to hear, but I don't want you wasting your time. And I don't want you job crushing on a situation that just isn't going to pan out right now. So I've got to give it to you straight, and then I got to move you on. Excellent. Oh, wonderful. Well, so Crazy Flacos 33 on TikTok. I can't wait for you to try. It's free for 7 days. If you need help in this job market, that's exactly what we do. Right? Absolutely. Let us be your career cooking show, right? Let us be your career contractor. Whatever analogy I need to give you all so that you can realize that anytime you want these things in your life, you're going to need the right program to do it. Awesome. Okay. Can you touch on the delicate approach to skip level meetings to discuss methods to seamlessly transfer opportunities when you have a toxic boss? Oh, okay. This is really cool. Let's talk about this. What do you do when you have a toxic boss and you want to try to build a relationship with the people above them? Because you have to be careful, right? If you overtly go around this toxic boss and try to go above them, you could get in trouble. This boss could make your life difficult, right? So this is going to require a little bit of strategy. I love this kind of strategy. I'm down for helping people with toxic bosses that are trying to get to the next level. Okay. First of all, it is really important to understand what your end game is. So make sure there is a clear end game. Is there a job that you could potentially get with that next level manager? Is there that, doesn't involve you taking your boss's job, right? You got to think strategically here. What is the end game of making those higher level connections? What are you looking to get out of it? Okay. And once we understand that, then we get crafty. And by crafty, I mean, we start to think about the conversations we would need to have with our boss, where we ask them a bunch of questions and they draw their own conclusion to get where we need to be. So you have to, if you know your toxic boss well enough, and most of us do, they're pretty easy to read. We know that going in and, asking them for something or telling them that you want to do something doesn't really get you anywhere. Instead, you need to be thinking about questions you can ask them to make things their own idea. And I know you're like, why, JT? This is so annoying, because it is what it is, right? Folks, if everyone could have the perfect job and the perfect bosses and the perfect life, we'd have them. This is just the reality. And you should pride yourself on the idea of leveraging these techniques in order to get what you want, because it's a skill that you will use the rest of your life. This won't be the last toxic person you meet, the last toxic person you have to work with. So understanding them, what their wants and their needs are, and thinking about how to get them to arrive at a conclusion or an idea is something you need to be mapping out. I love doing that with people, because one example might be going with your boss and saying, hey, I noticed this problem. I'm curious, like, how does that impact you? And how would that impact, our boss, Mary, the person to level up? Oh, good question. I don't know. What can we do together? Is there something I can do to assist you with that? How can we make sure? Because we really wouldn't want that to happen. Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, we should probably do this and this. Amazing. I totally agree. And maybe we should get Mary's buy-in. Could we do that together? There are things that you can do and say that help you navigate that process. So, I can't give you specific examples because I would need to know your situation, but I'm telling you that anytime you're working with a toxic boss, learning how to ask them questions to get them to arrive at the direction you want to go in is one of the best techniques that you can master. It really does work. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Beth is asking a question: how to clarify the best stories from your career when you've had 30 years that provide evidence. Okay, let's talk about how you provide evidence to an employer that you are capable of doing the job. The clues lie in the job description. So over at Work It Daily, we have a tool called the Job Matching Matrix. And it's where you're able to take all the different aspects of the job description and map them out. And then you map your results in your career to them. So if they say they want you to have 5 years of experience with, Microsoft Office, and you have 10 years of experience, you're able to put 10 years, right? If they say that they need you to be able to manage a project end-to-end life cycle, you're able to say 15 years of experience, have managed over 50 projects, end-to-end life cycle, ranging in a budget of 30,000 to 300,000. What I'm trying to point out to you there is that the secret is matching numbers, is matching results, is quantifying your experience to the requirement they've asked for. That is how you do a feature to feature match. Remember, you're a business of one, you're marketing your services. They are asking for a bunch of features of you in the job description. You are going to need to match your features to that by quantifying your accomplishments. And that's what the job matching matrix does. But the other thing the job matching matrix does is it also showcases the benefits, because folks, we don't buy the features, we buy what the features do for us. We buy the benefits. And the people that get hired in this market not only know how to match themselves up feature to feature, they know how to translate those features into the benefits. And so the job matching matrix shows you how to explain that to them. And then you have this beautiful document that you use to share. So for my folks, when they're able to connect directly with a recruiting person or a hiring manager for a job, they're not only sending their resume, they're sending a job matching matrix saying, hey, I took the liberty of matching myself to the job, both the features and the benefits. And people eat it up. It's like the hottest tool going right now, because you've just taken all the guesswork out of whether or not you're a match and what we should talk about together. Otherwise, they're sitting there trying to make sense of your resume. They're trying to compare apples to apples. You're doing the apple to apple comparison for them with a job matching matrix. So that's how you make sure that you're on point. And again, if you want to learn how to use the job matching matrix, the tool, my video tutorial, that's all over in Work It Daily in the 7-day free trial. Awesome. New subscriber. Welcome. It says Trey Clay. Welcome, Trey Clay. Thrilled to have you as a new subscriber. Can't wait to help you for the next 7 days. We're going to make you love us so that you stay with us. But again, it's a 7-day risk-free trial, folks. All I'm looking for you to give me right now is not money. It's a little bit of your time. We're called Work It Daily. You spend more time liking and looking and binge watching. You give me 15 minutes a day in Work It Daily. You let me show you a video. You come to a live session. You watch what happens. That's all I'm asking you to give me right now, so that I can show you how important having the right courses and coaching and community are to getting the results that you want for yourself. Right? That's what I'm looking for investment, 15 minutes a day. That's all. Let's see. Applied for 2 jobs on the same day. They rejected me for one today, but no response for the other. Okay, that's a good sign. Yeah, like it's just you never know where you are in the process. And sometimes some companies, by the way, they don't want you to apply for multiple jobs at their company. And there's unfortunately no way to know that. So I usually tell people if you see multiple jobs at a company that you're interested in, you should try to reach somebody at the company and ask if it's okay to apply to multiple jobs. So that's actually a really valid reason to reach out to a recruiter and say, hey, I see multiple jobs at your company that I think I'm a fit for. Is your company okay with me applying to all of them, or should I just pick one? And they'll usually give you an answer, but they'll also look up your profile. So it's kind of a really sneaky, cool back channeling technique to get them to check you out. I have an Amazon interview I have not practiced. What would you recommend to do prep? So if you have if you have got a job interview and there's a very short window before you're doing it, the one thing I would do is go see if that company is on Glassdoor and if anybody has talked about the interview process there. Because you very quickly, if they do, people have posted and you can start to read through the interview process and at least familiarize yourself what's coming. Usually they'll tell you how the process will go, what questions you might be asked, so you can at least get a sense of what's coming. After that, if you have time, I would be sitting and thinking about what are the 10 questions I know they're going to ask me and how do I answer that correctly? You should be thinking about the evidence you can provide in those answers. That's going to be key because you have to be seen as the must-have candidate, the candidate that will save the money, make the money, solve problems, alleviate pain. So your answers have to speak to that. And if you can think about that in advance, then at least when you get in the interview, you're not feeling like on the spot. You've got some things to say. But those would be the two things I do when I have very little time to prepare for an interview. Those would be the things that I would try to do to get prepared. Good luck. Go get them. Awesome. Wonderful. You guys are great today. Quick shout out. TikTok's crushing it today. Clearly lots of TikTokers figuring out how to earn more, stress less, and love their work. I think coming in second today is YouTube, and then coming in third is LinkedIn. So thank you to all of you that are here asking your questions. I love helping you as much as I can. This is my live podcast. I go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's called JT Talks Jobs. Follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on YouTube, follow me here on TikTok, and you'll get access. And if you want to watch the recording, they're all recorded and stored in a podcast on YouTube. Yeah. Outside the typical reduction in tasks done by your boss, what are some of the lesser known managing out strategies used by companies and bosses? Yeah. All right. Anytime, let's talk about this. If you think there's something going on that you're being managed out, okay, and what I mean by managed out is they're getting set up to let you go. What you'll first start to see is that you'll be getting things taken off your plate, but you won't be given things to replace it. So they're saying, oh, we're going to have Bill do this now, but we're not going to give you something else to do. Or Mary's taking that over from you, and we're not going to give you something else to do. Why is that? They should be maximizing the use of your time. They should be replacing those activities with other activities. Second big sign is when you're seeing meetings that you're not invited to. So, oh, you're not on that project anymore. We're just going to go meet and do this. Okay. No, you don't need to be a part of that call anymore. We're going to do this. That is another sign that they are taking things off your plate. Those are warning signs that you're being managed out. You should be very cautious and aware of that. If a company really wants you and wants to keep you, they're going to keep you busy. They're going to keep you growing. They're going to want to add more to your plate. They're going to take the lower level responsibilities off to give you higher level responsibilities. They're going to maximize their use of you. So if you're not feeling maximized, if anything, you feel like they're starting to minimize, that is a sign that you should be concerned of. Yeah. Love it, love it, love it. What else we got going on here? All right. What are recruiters looking for when taking in screening calls? All right. Let's talk about the recruiter screening call, what it is, and how you need to be prepared for it. When a recruiter screens you, all they're trying to do is validate that you are who you say you are and that you meet certain criteria to be moved forward and considered. What I need you to understand is a recruiter can get you removed for the process, but they can't get you the job. They are not the hiring manager. They are not the decision maker. They are the gatekeeper. They are what we call a technical buyer, meaning they're making sure that you meet the requirements, right? The technical aspects. It doesn't mean tech job, but in general. So when they're on the call with you, they're trying to confirm that you actually do have the experience you said you had, that you do have the certain skill sets that you need. But the other thing they're evaluating in that phone screen is your personality, essentially your communication style, because they're trying to sense like how would you be to communicate with on the job, and then your aptitude. And by that, I mean how you approach things. It might be like what you value, your methodologies, how you look at things, because they have to make sure that your values and your approaches sync with the way they do it. And that's not always an easy thing for you to see. Like that's not something that companies readily put out there. So you need to be really well, ready to communicate well. And I'm not saying that means you have to have a big personality and be a sort of extrovert. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, are you prepared enough to answer these questions calmly and succinctly so that you are giving them the right information? That is showing you are an effective communicator of your brand. Okay. But then also being able to talk about how you do things so that they can get a sense of, okay, this person can do it the way we want them to. That is why one of the big things we have people do at Work It Daily is study the 18 most common behavioral questions. Behavioral questions are these open-ended questions that they're going to ask you so that you have to give more than a one-word answer so that they can listen and assess your communication style and your aptitude, as well as your experience, right? Those questions help them assess all three. So you investing time and energy in preparing for that is going to make you better with recruiters, okay? Now, I need everyone to hear this right now. You get to the end of a recruiter screen. The recruiter says to you, yeah, I really like you. I'm going to pass you along to the hiring manager. You just heard, I'm getting an interview. That's not what they said. They said, I'm passing you to the hiring manager. They're going to do that about 10 times. And then that hiring manager is going to look at those people and pick 3 to 5 to interview. So please, just because you get through a great recruiter screen and they loved you and they said they're moving you on does not guarantee you an interview. I need you to hear that. It's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have, because then they get angry and they're like, the recruiter said I was great. The recruiter said I was moving forward. All you moved forward was in consideration, not in landing an interview. Okay. So it's really important that we understand that. And one of the things that you can do is say, when they say something like, yeah, I'm going to move you forward, say, amazing. Can you tell me what the hiring manager will be considering when they're looking at all the people you move forward in terms of who they might select to interview? And do you feel like I've really covered off on that? Because that helps them understand that, this doesn't mean you're getting an interview, but also can get you some information on what it might take in order to be considered. Okay. But it's really important that I manage your expectations on that, because I have a lot of people come back and they feel like the recruiter wronged them. And in reality, you didn't understand what was really happening in that moment. I want you to know that so that you're not blaming the recruiter. Yeah. Very, very good. You guys are great. Awesome. Let's see. The hardest thing about being live on 3 platforms is that you have to have 2 cameras to do it. It's really, really hard. So I'm sorry when I'm not, I'm have to look at the main computer here. So to my TikTokers, I love you very much. But if you really want to watch this and have me look at you and your eyeballs, go over to LinkedIn or YouTube. I'm live on both those platforms and I can look it dead in the eye. The platform I'm on doesn't let me stream TikTok there. Received an email and they are asking for a video interview for the role in Play 2. Okay. Let's see. All right. So what do you do when a company emails you and says they're going to put you in a video interview? Let me explain what those are. A lot of companies are using this as a way to get the evidence. I talk about this all the time, that you are who you say you are. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there lying about themselves in their resumes, even on their LinkedIn profiles, in their written applications. And the only way companies can be sure that you are authentic and to validate you is to have them do a video interview. So the tools that they're using send you a link and it opens up and it asks you questions and then you record your answers. And then that goes back and they're able to evaluate you. This is how they're able to hear you and assess what I said earlier, which is your communication style and your aptitude and your experience all in one. You should be prepared for those. And what I would suggest you do is go and look and research what the common questions are that you will be asked for this type of job. And I would rehearse. I would do some mock interviews. I would take your phone, I would record yourself answering them, and I would watch yourself. I know that makes a lot of people cringe, but to be honest, you're the only one that's going to see it. And more importantly, you're going to very quickly pick up on some things that you do that you can improve upon. Second thing I'm going to tell you is that this is going to be a new normal. Videos are going to become the new normal as a way. It will be the first interview because of all the authentication issues that companies are having with talent. So you should be investing in a setup where you can answer these correctly. You want your camera eye height. So if you're doing this on your phone, don't put your phone down here so that you're staring down at them. You want your camera eye height. You want to be in a well-lit room. So you want to make sure there's a lot of light on the other side of you facing you so your face is lit up and you don't look like you're in a cave, okay? You want to be someplace where it's quiet and non-distracting. These are all things that you can do to help your video land better so that you are more impressive. And these are things you do not want to sleep on, sorry. If you want to learn everything you should be doing with video interviewing, shocker, I have an entire tutorial on that, right? There's a whole video I included in our interview prep course over at Work It Daily, gone over when you're ready to finally grab your 7-day free trial and invest in the time. Again, it's 7 days free, so there's no cost, but invest a little time in seeing what it's like to work with a career coaching company to give you the right answers. That just might be the thing that does it for you today. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. So, interesting. So I'm in an interview and they're asking me to do 4 projects unpaid. Is this normal? A few years ago, I would say no, but today, this is a beautiful example of companies that just want the evidence. They need to authenticate and prove that you can do the work, and they don't want to pick the wrong person. They don't want to pick the wrong person, train the wrong person, have them leave and start over again. So we're seeing an increasing number of companies ask for these kinds of assignments. The other reason they do this is that when they have a lot of really qualified candidates, this is how they weed them out. Some candidates are going to say, I'm not doing 4 assignments, I'm done. And they self-select out of the process, which is great for you. My advice is if you really like the company and you want the job, do the assignments. Invest the time and energy. It's going to make you better and smarter, right? It's going to show that you are putting skin in the game and that you really want the job. I know that's hard to hear for a lot of people. And I understand that if you don't get the job, then you're really angry and upset, like I put all this time and energy in. But folks, right now it's a numbers game. We've got to do different things. We've got to put time in. We've got to go the extra mile in order to get the jobs. That is just the reality of the market. And so people that understand that are doing it. And, one thing I will say is that anytime you get that far in an interview process where they're having you do assignments and things like that, it means that they're impressed with you. So if they don't hire you for the actual job, I would be immediately going back and saying, hey, I want to stay in touch. I know I wasn't the ultimate candidate, but I loved the process with you. What can I do to stay on your radar screen for future opportunities? And the reason I encourage you to do that is most people don't. Most people cop an attitude and never want to speak to them again. But they really liked you. They just couldn't hire multiple people for the same role at the same time. What happens if this person doesn't work out? What happens if they realize they need to hire a second person? What happens if there's another job that's slightly better that you'd be a better fit for? When you reach out and you approach that, the runner up attitude with grace and professionalism, they don't forget that. In fact, then they're like, we're not going to post the job. We're going to go back and ask if he or she wants it because they were so great and so gracious when they were the runner up. So be thinking long-term strategy there. Yeah. Alrighty. Hey team, I need to bounce. I'm about to be interviewed on a live podcast. I've got 3 minutes to get over there. So I've got to go. This was a great session, great week. You can watch all 3 of the live podcasts over on YouTube. They're on LinkedIn too, but they're all on the YouTube. Would love to see you all next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at my lives. And of course, if you're ready, if today's the day and you want to invest a little time, grab your 7-day free trial at 3 p.m. Eastern today. I will be doing the LinkedIn and personal branding class, which is just a couple hours away. I'd love to see you there. Okay. Awesome. I love you all. You have a great week. All right. Good luck. Go get them.